In 2012, something remarkable happened in the Estonian capital, Tallinn. Cars were congesting the city's streets, so the local government asked residents, "Do you want free public transport?" They said, "Yeah." So Tallinn made it free. Since 2013, every resident can just hop on and off trams and buses without having to buy a ticket. Did this unclog the city? Well, buses were fuller than before. But at the same time, the share of public transit compared to other means of transport dropped.
The ridership has fallen dramatically from 42% to now 30%. And in the same time, car use has risen about 5%.
Despite free public transport, people use their cars more. If not money, what does it take to convince people to switch from cars to public transportation?
Try to imagine what this country would be like without automobiles.
This General Electric film is from 1948, but our sentiment towards cars hasn't changed much since.
There's nothing like a car.
When people look at the psychological aspects of car ownership, they typically look at areas of status and of pride.
Pete Dyson is a behavioral scientist. He researches why people travel the way they do.
The nature of the tool that it plays in our life provides some freedom to go places and to do things that has some unique aspects.
Cars are about way more than just getting from A to B. They fulfill a lot of what we desire. Take a look at this pyramid of needs. It's a concept from the world of psychology that ranks what we need from basic things like food and safety to belonging and self-esteem up to self-actualization, so becoming the best version of yourself. A car covers a whole lot of those needs. Not only does it take you wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go, it's also relatively safe and comfortable, and friends and colleagues who see your car as a sign of success may admire you. Sure, a bus gets you from A to B as well, but forget about glamour or comfort once you get off a subway covered in sweat and super late for your business lunch. The thing is just, while driving might be great for those inside the car, it's actually pretty bad for everyone else. Cars, vans and motorbikes kill around 2 million people each year through air pollution or road accidents. Plus, they emit around 10% of global carbon emissions into the air, because most of them still run on fossil fuels. Yes, public transport also emits carbon, but per person it's much less. Having many people share a vehicle makes the trip more efficient in this respect. That's why governments want people to switch. After Tallinn, other cities and countries have also tried to bait them with the simplest thing, money, and made public transport free. Like Luxembourg, the island of Malte, Kansas City and Albuquerque. Their experience was largely the same as in Tallinn.
People who were using public transport anyways are now using it more often, taking more rides.
Merlin Rehema is a sustainable city researcher based in Tallinn.
To some extent also like short walks and bicycle trips that were taken before became then bus trips.
But just very few give up their car. The cost is €40 per resident per year to make public transport free in Tallinn. But if buses are packed and not well connected, residents are reluctant to switch. You also need to make the public transport system better.
There are ways in which you can make journeys smoother, more punctual, more reliable by improving, say, signalling, giving bus priority to public transport, a safer environment, a more comfortable environment, the access to a seat or a table, or the ability to do useful or meaningful things whilst travelling.
Some cities have understood this and are working hard to improve their public transport system, like Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. There are almost 11 million people there, almost 4 million cars, 17 million motorbikes. People spend hours in traffic. Air pollution has gotten really unhealthy, but the city has also invested a lot in public transport. Here's what a trip can look like. Within 500 meters of your home, you find a stop for a free minibus that's part of the Microtrans network. this takes you to a bus station. From there you catch a bus that drives on a separate lane past all the cars stuck in traffic. The whole trip costs 3,500 rupees, as much as a small bottle of water. That's affordable. The bus is air-conditioned, which is a nice relief. It has service staff on board and a separate, supposedly safe area for women. These pink buses are women only. BRT, short for Bus Rapid Transit, has become popular in big cities in Latin America and Asia. Jakarta has the largest network with 14 of these corridors spanning over more than 250 kilometers. They call it Trans-Jakarta. The concept of BRT is to give more space to public buses. This way they are supposed to travel quickly and reliably without building much new infrastructure.
It is attractive because it is integrated with the microtrans. It is integrated with the minibuses or medium buses. So we call it first mile and last mile connectivity.
Gongam Tuas Dangang is the Southeast Asia director of a non-profit transport institute. He lives in Jakarta and advises the transit operators. The first and last mile connectivity he just spoke about is important to let people access public transport in the first place. That can work with bikes or e-scooters. In Jakarta, it's these minibuses. They used to be informal and privately operated, but then got integrated into the public system. 20 years after the first bus corridor was built, Jakarta's bus network now covers most of the city and is connected to the local train network. Overall, about 10% of trips are made by public transport. That might not sound like a lot yet, but the government is thinking big. It wants to increase that number sixfold by 2030. Seems like Jakarta is taking user needs seriously. But they also haven't found the secret formula yet. Because as public transit has been growing, so has car and motorcycle traffic. It seems that nudging people into public transport is one thing, but
the major challenge here, or the major homework here, is that to push people to use public transport.
For decades, the solution to too much traffic has been to build more lanes, more roads, more flyovers, more free parking. And Jakarta has done just that. The thing is, that's not how you unclog your streets. Today we know more space for cars only attracts more cars. And after a few years, roads are congested again, with more vehicles than before. This is called induced traffic. If you want fewer cars, you're better off doing the opposite. Make it harder and more inconvenient to drive a car. Again, the most obvious tool is money. From 2025, car owners in Estonia will have to pay two kinds of taxes. One when they buy a car and one when they use it. They aren't big fans of that new tax, of course. London has established a congestion charge zone. Everyone driving into it during the day has to pay £15. Car traffic dropped significantly while bus and metro use went up. But simply making it expensive to drive might hit poorer people particularly hard. There are other options too.
They can also be like non-monetary measures, like really redesigning your cities in order to favor public transport use and active modes.
Paris, for example, has been removing tens of thousands of parking lots, closing entire roads to cars and tripling parking fees for big and polluting SUVs. Jakarta is starting to redesign as well in an area with tens of thousands of parking spaces. Gongam Tuas Dangang is advising the pilot project.
We start by improving the connectivity, the wall pedestrian facilities and also cycling facilities. And then we also develop a strategy of how to reduce the parking space within the area.
What is important here is that the neighborhood sits at a major public transport hub with bus and rail connections. You can only put pressure on car drivers if you have good public transport alternatives ready. Just like with cars, people have very different needs and expectations when it comes to good public transport. It must be
easy and enjoyable.
In between affordable and accessible.
Reliable and comfortable.
And just like that, each city starts from a different point in terms of traffic, infrastructure, budget, mobility behavior, and so on. There's no single formula for public transport that applies to everyone. Whether you're nudging or pushing residents into transit, it still looks different in each place. But the goal is the same: to reduce traffic, carbon emissions, and air pollution. The challenge is that new public transit has to be built within existing cities, in between houses, cars, and people. Unless you want chaos and frustrated citizens, room for private vehicles can only be reduced step by step as well. And we haven't even talked about rural areas yet, where routes are longer and buses scarcer. But a few quick fixes could make public transport more convenient almost immediately, like an app that shows in real time where the bus is and when it'll arrive. Or a uniform, maybe cheap fare system that works for different types of transit. Little things that reduce stress and give a sense of control. What do you think about buses and trains where you are? Leave us a comment and subscribe. We post a new video every Friday.